So, last year I scared some people off with the numbers from the IPCC about climate change. Sorry for those still affected. But this year we will do it in a more consumable way. And I think we have great people in our panel to help us with that. And I would like to start with a question. It's Excel sheets. How far is digitalization in working on climate balances and sustainability goals and tracking and stuff? Are we on the right path here, or are we actually still in Stone Age?
In terms from a perspective of tech people, yes. It depends. Let me give you another insight. If you look into very emission-intensive sectors and also having in mind their hotspots, we also witness that automation is far more advanced and also digitization. So we receive data directly from the production side. There is no human interface. The human interface is having the plausibility check and to look if those data generated automatically by sensors can be, if they are realistic. So this is, I would say, the advanced stage. Within the same company, there is a smaller side with much less energy consumption where still handwriting is done in order to read the meter. So, and of course it is a challenge to bring those two worlds together.
So would you say when we are at a point where ERP systems and supply chain systems don't just track the objects they manage and the money behind it, but also the resource, especially climate resource aspects, then we're on the right path?
I would say yes. As long as we do not simply trust any factor that is generated anonymously somewhere. So the challenge still is the data entered into a system, is it correct or not? And we should not lay back. For example, I made the example of the laptop. We talked about that.
Yep.
Maybe you can tell the story on that and what the difference is.
Well, what do you think, how the aluminium case of this one, is it recycled or is it new? That's, it's newly produced. Aluminium takes a lot of energy to produce, a lot of electrical power. I don't think so. But no, that one actually is recycled aluminium. And well, there are some nerds following Apple's product announcements, and at some points they mentioned over years they will trying to have more recycled materials. They now have 50% recycled aluminium. They have now 100%. It's always just a side note, but that's part of the stuff that needs to happen. And of course, when we then track what our scopes 2 and 3, what we are using our companies, we need to differentiate. Do we now have a product that looks the same, that is built in a sustainable way or in a classical way? And otherwise we won't see any progress. Yeah? That's the story.
Yeah.
And therefore the laptop is up here. So next thing that I'm interested in are IT consulting companies like ourselves, from your view, Roland. Are we really already engaging with the clients to help them on this process of digitalizing their reporting and planning, or is it still a game of specialists like FutureCamp?
We are in the situation where this market is changing. We need both. And we see more and more startups coming up also with the promise of delivering tools, software, but also systems for generating data more automatically and more, of course, more efficiently than to do handwriting. But I guess for a couple of years, we will need both.
So that leads me to ask my CEO, is this something we will invest in, that we are part of that?
I need more data. You know, when you said now 50% with the cars, how did you get that number?
The catch is the aluminium and the steel built within the car, and of course the materials used for the batteries.
Yeah.
Lithium.
So what's the difference between electrical car and classical?
Utilization, so the use of it. Of course, within the Teslas, you can make use of green electricity. Mm-hmm. So that's the advantage. At the end of the day, having in mind the whole use phase, the electric car is much better.
What's the ratio? So if I buy a petrol car or electrical car, where am I? You know, is it a huge difference or a small one?
It's a huge one, and what's something that is important to know and to understand within the businesses. It's not aware. The awareness is not there within the consumers, but within the businesses. If you're producing, for example, stones, plaster stones, in the meantime, if you're asking your cement provider, deliver me the cement, you're receiving a price indication, and that's the price for the cement, and that's the price for the carbon dioxide that has been released when producing the cement. It's part of the businesses, and it's part of the invoices for the next part of the value chain. And of course, this is creating awareness very dramatically. And it's also creating awareness within other departments of a company. But there's still a lot to do, and to be transparent on that, and also to enable people to make an informed decision. And that's especially the role where your companies are coming in.
You know, as each other in personal life, in companies, and of course, as you said, you know, if we go to continuous improvement of all system, maybe we are on the right pathway, you know, to better world, in fact.
And actually, I wanted to know if you're going to invest in helping our clients in the digitalization of their sustainability reporting and planning. But you took the full responsibility part and said, what can we do ourselves, which is great. But will we invest in this kind of consultants practice? Yes, no?
Of course, yes, you know, because it seems so logical, you know, what else to do?
Great. Witnesses in the room. So, yeah, and of course we need the right people to do this. And Neven, I think you are very close to those talents that we may hire in the coming years, especially in Croatia. Yes. So has this thinking about sustainability, its importance and so on already caught roots in academia, in the curriculum and so on? Where do you think we are?
Thank you for your question, and thank you for inviting us from academia to be at this panel. The question is a complex one. I would say that at least here in Croatia, the green and sustainability did not enter the mainstream of the courses. I have to admit it quite openly, because yes, but we are catching the speed related to this. For example, we do teach some aspects of sustainability related to IT. Unfortunately, IT is kind of special sector because it's heavily influenced by hype of different technologies, and some of these technologies are not really green. For example, blockchain as a typical example of heavy consumption for more or less nothing special, writing down the record. Then we have AI, which is now totally interesting, I guess, to everyone. But it's training these models and requires significant amount of computing power and electricity. And if you look at the Gartner hype cycle, for example, all the incoming technologies are on the same path. So if you want to follow the technology, somehow there is a problem in the IT because these technologies force you to kind of be in step with them. On the other hand, IT can help to all green initiatives. For example, smart cities, digital twins, efficient use of artificial intelligence. If put into adequate context, I guess that this industry can substantially compensate its impact on the environment. So yes, and this is our job in academia, to teach our students, of which my students, I met some already here. It's our job to teach them.
And when you're talking about your students, what do you think is the expectation when they now come into industry, start working for the organizations that they get employed in, how they deal with the situation, how serious it is, what they can achieve as individuals in those organizations to improve things. Is this important, or?
Yeah, it's getting more important, but also depends on the age and the years spent within the company. Right after the university, I guess their expectations are mainly directed towards salary and making their career impact. And I think this is natural for young persons. However, as the years pass, they feel some other aspects of their careers, for example, workplace environment, and also their contribution to overall initiatives on a company level or global level. So, because you have to see that students are aware of this, I would say quite substantially, but running out of the university, I guess their main focus at the beginning of the career is, yes, targeting the right workplace, salary, and career. But after that, they become more aware of other aspects.
But that means that we that are already in those organizations really need to get our act together and cannot hope that they will drive us.
Yeah, I would say yes, because the organizational culture is very important thing, and I would say more and more important, because the culture in which young person is immersed right after the university can determine the entire mindset afterwards. For example, so if you are immersed into a responsible organization which cares about gender diversity, climate responsibility, everything that resonates with young people can have significant impact on overall mindset.
Is this something we feel in our summer camps?
As you know that we are aware of that, we need right directions, and I hope that, as the professor said, you know, everything is actually in how to say that, adopting culture from the company. So if your company is already aware, I think that people will easily align, you know, especially younger generations, you know, that because they talk much more about ecology than we do before.
Related to the organizations are changing, and this cultural aspect is gaining more traction, because also previously mentioned artificial intelligence. It requires different organizational culture than previously, because with AI no one promises anything. So you need culture of experimentation, of trying and error. The same applies for new aspects related to environmental responsibility. So you have to, this is not part just of reporting at strategy, which is important, and you had a great presentation. I learned quite a lot from you, but also from making this that people really believe in this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, you mentioned that our impact on society, economy, and also the environment from the IT industry may be net from all we do a positive one, even if we consume a lot of resources. Yeah. Of course, I mean, IT industry is known for liking to replace, but selling something new and telling the client to retire the old one. So provocative question to all three of you, yeah, from different angles. You being an entrepreneur in IT, you looking what we're doing, yeah, from environmental perspective. You teaching people that talents that going to us. Are we now from this hope that we're in net do better than don't care about your investment plans? We have something better, yeah, hardware, software, whatever. It all costs effort and energy. Or yeah, are we actually the heroes? Yeah. What do you think?
Me or
All the three of you. Who's faster starts.
or I can start and maybe. We have two phases. We have two phases. One is commercial, trying to utilize the equipment, the software, and the industry is just like that. It forces the companies to be on the at the same speed with others. But on the other hand, really the use of this technology can and will eventually reduce the environmental impact. For example, if you use Internet of Things and many things that collect data all over the production cycle, then you really monitor the production more carefully. So I would say that at the end of the day, the IT will benefit the mankind in general. The speed is, however, really, really fast. For example, the community is now directing towards quantum computing, which also requires more energy, more investment, and stuff like that. So I guess that we will have the strength to be net good guys.
Roland?
I would like to mention three issues shortly on that. One is the pace. We all should be aware, so people here in the room are more or less representing an elite. So, but we have to be aware that many people, some people feel overburdened by the rapid changes that we witness. And just to give you a number, if you look into a brick factory, a modern one, somewhere in Europe, be it, for example, in the southeast of Germany, you have roughly 10 people working within the production site. And then this had been 30 people 20 years ago. So what people witnessed due to automation indeed is also losing their jobs, or at least huge changes of what is required from them. That's the one side. On the other side, Internet of Things, you mentioned that. We do have a customer that due to very good IT system, it's a steel producer, and he is able to make a distinction for each customer and even each production charge. Do you want to have the green product or the gray product? If you are willing to pay more, I deliver to you the green product. So, and of course, this would not be possible without the technologies that you provide. Absolutely. This cannot be done by typing someone all the day. So that's, I would say, more or less encouraging. Last example, 2 years ago, I needed to change my mobile phone. Simply due to the fact it was 5 years old. Worked perfectly, I liked it, and then I needed to change it simply due to the fact that my bank is changing its software, and suddenly I did not have access to the online banking anymore with this kind of mobile phone, so I need to change it. So, and that's an example, I would say, where the industry, IT industry, also might have a look into its own businesses.
All other industries, in fact.
Yes, of course.
That's the catch 22, you know. It's really when we discussed a lot, you know, Joachim and I, we like to discuss about this topic, you know. If you ask me if I'm a hero, I'm not a hero. You know, I'm in very comfortable position and I don't think too much about ecology. It's easy to put PVs on the roof because I don't sacrifice. Okay, we are investing, but still, you know, because it produces energy, we are,
exactly,
you know, it's win-win situation. But when you have to sacrifice yourself for traveling, for buying goods, for everything, I'm a loser, not a hero. So, and I think all of us really have to think about that almost every day. So that was the reason why I actually compared that to the health, because that's in a way health. And so if we don't think about it, we are, you know, in a really bad situation, like a lot of us, for example, me, in a bad situation with my health. You know, I know that I shouldn't drink so much. I know that I shouldn't eat so much, but I do that. And I think, okay, somehow it will not hit me. But with ecology, it's not like that. And I not act at all like should I do. So that's my opinion. So.
Then I'll just continue with asking, what would you like to achieve in the next 1 or 2 years? Not in your health, that's your private thing.
If you heard Kelsey this morning, we need some serious roadmap before we start doing just something, you know, but we have to think, really think a lot what we can do, what we should do. You know, I like, you know, our Mater Imac, you know, everybody knows him here. You know that he is vegetarian because of ecology. That's very brave from him, I have to admit. You know, I'm not at the moment, but who knows?
So, do you have goals personally and in your role?
Personally, yes, I'm trying to be vegetarian. I eat less and less meat, but this is on a personal basis. I still travel a little bit too much, but after the COVID crisis, I guess we spared something. But in any case, as a teacher, as a professor, I do feel a responsibility to talk about this to my students, because it is also true that as a students at their age, they are not quite aware of these aspects. They have some other mindset, how to be better programmer, how to achieve something. So yes, if I talk them about this, I think that, for example, no one, at the first glance, no one of them thought about blockchain in this, from this aspect. They see other advantages like cryptocurrencies, investment, and everything that is, for young people, may be challenging. But if you tell them some other stories, I guess that you at least raise some questions with them.
And you, Roland?
Would be keen on accompanying a few of my clients with the big transformation within steel and chemical sector especially. And from my personal point of view, my wife will love to hear it. Now at the latest, I'm convinced I should quit smoking. And I will do that next week. So now I announced it publicly. So this will force me.
As I shouted in your presentation, we will work with our neighbors in the building in Munich where CROZ Zagreb is to convince the owner to put a PV on the roof. We will install wall boxes to consume the energy that we produce for ourselves. I should eat a lot less meat, which is really hard. And I don't know what you're going to have to eat now because we're in between you and food. That's what we wanted to talk about. Questions, exclamations, something.
Said we in DACH, we started dealing with this topic generally and also thinking about measures and all these things that we can do within the company. And I recently participated in some online seminar, which was quite interesting. And I feel that this sustainability topic is very often perceived as something, let's say, exhausting that the company has to do. Is this the right impression? I mean, since you're dealing a lot with companies and it's your core business, would you say that it's perceived as something that has to be done because of the legislation and the market situation? Or do you think that there's also businesses that consider this as something positive? Because in my opinion, the problem is also lying a little bit in the fact that people consider it as a must-do and not necessarily opportunity, which in my opinion, it could be or it can be, because I mean, in the end, it's about saving resources, and also from a business perspective, this is actually something good, not necessarily something bad. I mean, it depends on your perspective. What would you say, how is it perceived mostly within businesses, companies?
I would say 3/4 of the companies perceive it as a risk and a burden, at least in the beginning, but the perception is changing. After the basic steps have been done, also they watch out more precisely on opportunities. And this is one of the reasons why I love the carbon pricing instruments, because this is helping to also to create the bridge. If you save emissions, you can earn money. That's a quite simple equation, and it raises much more fantasy and also enthusiasm as compared to simply being forced to do something. And that's what we witnessed also nearly 20 years ago when the European emissions trading scheme has been invented. Many here in the room are not aware that such a scheme is existing because it's a pure business-to-business scheme. But it already proved that also opportunities have been taken into account and not just risks. Thank you for the question. That's important to make clear that.
And you told me that implementing the systems for this scheme was the first public pure digital process implemented in Germany, which is something we can be proud of because we now have one. And then we'll talk about digitalization in administration in Germany at some other time.
That's really true. It's unbelievable, especially having in mind Germany, it's really unbelievable that the introduction of emissions trading in 2004, the basic structures have been built, is the first completely electronic administrative process in Germany, with all the emissions reporting done electronically since many years.
There is a question in the back, the gentleman with the red shirt.
Yes. So where do you see us 5 years?
Well, we will not be in a perfect world, that's for sure. I guess we will witness within very fundamental industrial sectors that the first transformations are on the way. And they already have, the basic decisions are done. For example, there are just one furnace in the steel industry that's an investment of 3.5 billion euros, one. And but it's on the way. And also the acceptance within the customers, maybe to be willing to pay at least a little bit more in the beginning for having green products, it's also increasing. This is helpful, but that's the view of the European Union. And even inside the European Union, there's a difference between the perception in Croatia and Germany, or in Scandinavia, or the United Kingdom, for example. And so we will see big progresses, an increasing awareness, and maybe more a shift to also watch out for opportunities, including completely new business streams for making sure that, for example, materials are reusable, where I also see a big role for the tech companies to help this to enable. And so I'm still optimistic. It's not fast enough, so we need to be prepared also for a world that is not that funny at the same time. But I'm still optimistic that we will see big progress within the next years to come.
It's European Union, okay? It's just a small part of the whole world. What about China, India, Africa, the United States? Do we have some impact? Do they think like us or not? Are they aware of that, or what's going on there?
Difficult question, so I don't want to grab away the whole lunch break. To be short, the United States so far does have the same emission reduction performance as the European Union if you compare 2005 to 2020. Okay. That's mainly due to the activities driven by single states like California, for example. And now the Biden administration is launching a very huge subsidy program, roughly 370 billion of euros that are dedicated for climate change related issues, a tax crediting scheme. China introduced a carbon pricing scheme aiming on capping their emissions after 2025, coming downward with their emissions. It's not fast enough, it might not be ambitious enough from a European point of view, but it's far more than nothing. The big, India is another case. India is lagging behind, also in terms of acceptance of that they also are forced or should do something, simply due to the fact somebody raised it in the discussion in the panel before. It's a difference if we have electricity whenever we would like to have it. That's not the case in India. So, and that's something we should take into account.
But we have an impact because our industries are consuming services and goods from those countries, as we are more and more in an interconnected world. And Peter and I talked to a CTO of a company building stuff for powertrains in cars. And he told us that today already, more than half of the decisions from their clients for new products, not products they have had for 10 years, but new products when they get a tender, are based on their energy rates for the product. And it's not only how much energy or resources are consumed now when the tender is then turned into buying, but the clients demand a roadmap how these emissions will be reduced over the lifetime of that part. And if this kind of buying behavior from big markets like the US and the EU will go out into the world, they will have an effect, I'm sure. Thank you.